Hello, today it is a beautiful day here in Indiana, and we'd like to talk about the weather here in the Midwest, so I thought I would open up this video with that. We're expecting rain, and after a hot day yesterday, today's temperatures have dropped a little bit, but I don't think we are going to have any snow. So my heart is a little happy. I'm waiting for spring. I've got gardening that I started and killed already. If you think I'm a great sod buster, no, I'm a sod buster learning. Hoping one day to finally say I have a green thumb. But this video is going to be filmed and uploaded today. My uploading schedule has been a little off since my family came, and I apologize. Just trying to get back into our rhythm and routine is just always a little bit longer for me. This video I'm going to be sharing all of the just updates in our homeschool. Probably the two biggest videos that I have on my channel have to do with my very first video about Charlotte Mason homeschooling. And then my second biggest video is actually why I said goodbye to Charlotte Mason thing. And when I made that video, the idea was to just not label myself Charlotte Mason anymore, because there are so many purists out there that there's often a miscommunication as to, wait a minute, you're doing it this way, but it should be this way. So I'm going to share with you what we are doing today. It's still Charlotte Mason inspired. It's still Living Books inspired. I haven't bought any textbooks. I'm still trying to figure out how best to work with my children and how they learn, and me and how I learn, and then just this blending of knowledge. So there's not really any way I can say, okay, today I'm holding up this curriculum and I'm going to be sharing with you this and why we use this and so on and so forth. It's just more of that chat that many of you do enjoy, and I'm so thankful for that, because that's where my strength lies. My strength doesn't lie in holding up curriculum or anything and telling you why you should or shouldn't use it. My strength lies in just chatting. I came to this... Yesterday I had a young mom over, and she was talking about trying to homeschool and just her struggles with it and feeling insecure in her abilities. And I reached out and I said, homeschooling isn't just for the child. You're not there just to teach the child, but you're actually there learning alongside the child. And that is the beauty of homeschool, because a lot of times teachers have to, in a public school setting, they have to follow a curriculum, and they have so much time for so many students. But within a homeschool atmosphere, you have taught your child all the way up until the academics. You have taught your child whatever manners they have, whatever habits they have, how they speak, how they act. Like, that has been you this whole time. And even through school, when they come home, it's still going to be you teaching things that have value to you. And there's no reason why academics should be any different. We learn how to be good parents by trial and error, and we learn how to be good academic teachers through some trial and error. And thankfully, our children are not messed up with some of the errors that we have. That was a big learning curve this year, especially because math is my one true weakness. I do not do very well in a lot of math that just isn't concrete. I went from being a A student as a homeschooler, just kind of blowing through, nothing was difficult, into hitting a blockage in my learning years of going from concrete to abstract. Now I had to kind of figure out abstract, and because it wasn't so black and white, I went from an A basically down to barely passing student. It was just, there's a mental blockage, but that's how I process things. And now that I am a teacher and I'm kind of exploring all of those insecurities that I've had for so many years, I'm just learning that, hey, just because some of the things that we've struggled with and some of the things that I didn't get into my daughter as well as I should have, we're able to kind of pick up. And once we found those tools and resources that I needed, we've been able to catch up, for lack of a better word. So with that, I asked a very wonderful, amazing, I'm not sure I could give enough praise for this woman, but she is very knowledgeable in math, very knowledgeable as a homeschool mom, and is a great resource back in my hometown for many homeschoolers that struggle. And she recommended going to Matthew C. Very recently, I have seen a video done by Educational Roots, I believe, but I'm going to leave the video link down below on how Matthew C. teaches multiplication. And it may be important because actually one of the problems we found in here with what the teacher had my daughter do and what this lady had my daughter do was a mindset difference. One of the ways that they were having her do it didn't click as well. She was able to do the formula, but her answers were wrong. And so this lady taught us it a different way, and I think now things are just starting to click. But we have pre-algebra Matthew C. She is 13. She'll be 14 in October. And she's doing pre-algebra, and then we're going to go into algebra 1. She has a desire to be a doctor, nurse, medical field. And I am pursuing that as if this is accurate for her. Now, I think in the past year, I would even say in the past 6 months, I have seen a decrease in her passion for this, especially as certain things have come up in our lives where I'm like, well, this is the kind of thing you'll need to know and need to be doing and be exposed to. There's just this decrease of, I do not want to deal with this. So it'll be really interesting to see where this goes, if it's just one of those humps or if it'll be pursued. But we're working through this, and this has been helpful to me too, since a lot of these concepts I just don't retain. And it's incredible to me how we can get it down to a whole page of doing the same problem over and over, and finally by the end we figure it out. But the next day I am back to square one of like, oh, how do we do this again? It just doesn't stick for me. But we do it again, and we do it again, and maybe one day it'll solidify in my brain. But for now, doesn't make sense, y'all. So this has probably been our biggest homeschool change. I have been Saxon forever just because I knew how to, it's what I grew up doing. This math lady who has done this and has brought up is not the word, but has taught many of our families in our town. She's a math genius, and so she has a formula, and I followed the formula, and she was using Matthew C, recommended it, and even sent me pre-algebra and algebra 1. So very helpful. And so this has been our biggest change, going to this, and then my son has gone into the fractions one. So those have been the two biggest changes in our homeschool. My 9-year-old, who is doing Saxon 5-4, will finish Saxon 5-4. I think I'm still going to keep that going. How I do math, and I think I will keep Saxon 5-4, but how I've been doing it is we use these are the Modern Curriculum Press. This is the style I had growing up. There's a green book that looks like this, there's the pink book, and then there's a blue book. They have recently revamped what they look like, but if I can find the old ones on Amazon, they're cheaper usually than the new revamped ones that you can get off a Rainbow Resource, and I just like these better. I don't know. Call it the 80s in me, the little kaleidoscope. But I really like how this is set up. A lot of it is review at the beginning. So a lot of times I actually just take the reviews out and I save them for a kid, just as work pages to, once they're getting a little bit old, what is the word? when they get past like their first book and we're just waiting for a second book, or maybe we're at the end of a school year and we need just a little bit more work, I'll take those and use them. The first book, the green book, is a lot of it is like there's 2 bunnies and you circle the 1 or the 2. And so my 5-year-old can do that. So I rip those out and give those to, he's not 5, he'll be 5 in July, but I just give those to him and whatnot. And the kids use them to play school with and all of those kinds of things. So this is Modern Curriculum Press, again, one that I grew up doing, and it's just very simply laid out. I'm weird. I do not like a lot of color in my books. I know a lot of people do. I don't. I think it's very distracting to what we're trying to work on here. And so I'm just like, it's going to be tossed anyway. And I really don't. I just want it straight and simple, laid out. And that's all I want. So I use these. This one is the book 2. I don't even know. I can't even tell you what grades, because honestly, I just start giving it to them about the time we start school, a little past 5, a little into 6. And we just work on it until we get to a consistent thing. My daughter will be 8 in August, and she's working on this book. And then after this, we'll work on the blue book. Just lost her pencil, but this is kind of how it's laid out. It's very simple. And we have like word problems. And if you guys want, I can do another walkthrough with these. I mentioned this to Just So Trish, and I know that she has started using these, and she has maybe made a video on it, but I'm not sure. But if I can see if she's made one, I'll link it down below. But again, I really like these. We go into the blue book. Most of the time, we don't finish the blue book. I don't even think my 3rd son, he's the one that just turned 9, he never actually did the blue book. Once he finished this, we had a Horizons math book that he went into, and it was working really well for him. He's kind of got the math mind, and so he went from that into Saxon 5-4. And he's been working on Saxon 5-4 for probably 2 years. But Saxon 5-4 is 5th grade, advanced 4th grade. So I am not too concerned right now with him in math. He'll finish it up here pretty soon. And then we'll probably go into whatever my math friend recommends for that. So this has probably been the biggest change. Math, in general, trying to homeschool and keep things consistent has just been my goal this year. When I was talking to my friend, I just told her just how much this year is such a huge change for me. For pretty much since the beginning of our homeschool, I've always had my sister here, and I've homeschooled her. And not just that, usually some other kids have been in our home homeschooling with us. This is the first year I haven't had that. And they would arrive at a certain time and they would leave at a certain time, and that was set up for me, and that worked well for me. And this is the first year that I really haven't had that. And I didn't realize just how much that schedule affected our homeschool. And so there was a lot of things that I was struggling with, and then it hit home really what it was. It was that it felt like we weren't all here to do homeschooling. And so now that I have that opening, or I have that imagery in my mind, I have a different way of looking at homeschool and how we're going to do it. So that's kind of what we've been doing, is focusing on getting math kind of structured and flowing and daily use and so on and so forth. I keep going back to looking at Ambleside, even though I've talked about some of the struggles we've had with it. I've done this video of why I'm really struggling on it. But why I love Ambleside is that it's laid out for me. There are some things about it I have qualms with. I've already discussed some of those. The main thing is I now have just a variety of grades. I have a 13-year-old daughter, please don't tell me what grade. She is in, I don't know. I just, but she has the gun, the drive to just sit down and do her schoolwork, and looks for challenges, looks for ways to improve herself in any way that she can. She just has that. And I can't necessarily lump her with my next kid, who honestly, if his school could be mowing lawns all day and working at a job, that would be his life dream, like, really. Living out in the wilds, going with a Coyote Peterson or Bear Grylls, like, if he could be that kind of person, he would totally do that and run with it. And then the next kid that I have in my lineup goes from 13 and 12, almost 14, almost 13, to just turned 9. And he is more advanced, but again, he's at that age where he is at that learning character age of learning to grow up, but still wanting to be a child, and just in that middle, and the butting heads with mom. Now, he is a sweetheart. He wants to make you proud. He loves you so much. But, oh, we butt heads. And so school is one of those butting heads issues. Anything, again, he's very smart. But one of the things that he doesn't like is he doesn't like to feel like he's failing. Actually, neither of my boys do. Because on further reflection, none of my kids do. And so if anything is a struggle to them, I have to kind of remind them, hey, this is something you're learning. This isn't something that's just going to come naturally. This is something you have to learn, and that's fine. It's going to take a little practice. It just doesn't mean that you sit down and you have everything at your fingertips. This is what learning is. And they don't like that process. They don't like feeling like they don't understand or dumb or anything. And honestly, who does? But, ooh, trying to work with that and have them not give up and not stomp away in frustration is taking every little nerve in my body to be calm. And some days I'm not. And then after that, I have my 7-year-old who will be 8 in August. And she's the one that she'll just sit down and do whatever she wants to do, learn however she wants to learn. And so I've never really kind of like directed her in a way. And I think that is coming to a point where, okay, I need to get this kind of going. I think if I put her with my 9-year-old, I think his mind level is a little bit higher than hers, and so he's not going to be challenged enough. And so all of this to say, like, Ambleside and trying to work with everybody and all of these things is not working. So, but I love how it's structured. I love that everything is laid out for me in a way. That's what I love. So, yeah, we're having a lot of fun with that. So, pretty much all this to say, I kind of go back to, okay, here's what I need to do, and I'm trying to work on a schedule that we can start June 1st. It's hot in the summer. It's not like we can go and do a lot. We have one trip planned in July, but that's not going to be a whole summer. We don't go anywhere. So let's use this opportunity to do natural daily learning. Other things that we've done is, it's spring, so we made some dandelion Play-Doh. My 7-year-old made a denim quilt, and how I'll try to put some pictures in here, maybe at the end, because it kind of breaks up the video, but she made this denim quilt that we just took these jeans and cut them up. I did cut them up because jeans are really hard to cut, and I used a rotary cutter just for the rest of it because you're just making squares, and mine is dull, and she had tried to do it and it was just too hard. But all of that to say, she learned how to sew all these straight seams and put the blocks together, and I showed her how to match them up and how to figure out what pattern we needed to do. And so she made this quilt out of leftover jeans. We had a sheet that we found at a thrift store and some fabric that I had here. And we made a quilt out of that. So that was kind of like our big project last week. Pretty much any spare time was used on that, not on school. Like book learning, I should say. And then what else? Now we're going to get into all the books that we've been reading. One of the things that had happened this past month was when my sisters were here, my kids heard more of the Hamilton musical. And then there was a video that we watched on how some of the musical embellished some of the actual facts, and read that. And then I had this book on my shelves, which is Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr. This is a landmark book. I don't remember where I got this, either at a thrift store or I bought it online from a used bookseller. I did not specifically search this out, that I know. I just, as I come across things like this, I try to add them to our collection. But I did have this, and since I had my 8-year-old really enjoying the music of Hamilton, I was like, okay, I'm going to tap into that. And so I pulled this out and I'm like, hey Ben, look what I have. And we started this yesterday, and we already are in the middle of chapter 3 because he wanted one more chapter. And it goes back and forth from Alexander Hamilton's perspective to Burr's perspective and so on and so forth. And fun fact, if you don't know, because this is something new for me, and I was like, what? Aaron Burr, his father was also Aaron Burr, but Aaron Burr's father married the daughter of Jonathan Edwards. That was so fascinating to learn. So, wow. Anyway, one of those things that just like, what? Whoa. I love little history tidbits like that. Anyway, so that's what I'm reading with my 8-year-old. Since he has 9-year-old, he just turned 9-year-old. Just because it's something that has his interest right now, and so I'm going to capitalize it, especially since last year he was listening to the audio book with me, 1776 by David McCullough, which is a book that I will recommend in high school, or require in high school for my students to read. And then for my 12-year-old, he is currently reading The World of Abraham Lincoln as his history. And so just when we have a few minutes, I am reading to him Sam Houston, The Tallest Texan, also Landmark. I just have a whole like biography shelf of books that I've been collecting. And this works about the time of Abraham Lincoln's world. So I have this one, and we have Stonewall Jackson, who is one of my favorite heroes. So I thought, okay, we'll just read these 2 books and just little one-on-one time with mom. And so I've been doing that, not consistently. I can't even say we've been doing it once a week. It's really just, okay, we've got some time. Do you want to pick up a book and read? Along with that, it's time to cycle again to our read-alouds with the younger ones. So those are the books that I started reading with my older ones, and now I've cycled around to reading them with my younger ones. So the first one that we've started with is The Cricket in Times Square by George Selden, illustrated by Garth Williams. My older ones loved this so much the first time we read it, and it's such a sweet story. It's about a cricket who has the music of a violinist, and he's kind of he's friends with this cat, this mouse, and this little boy, and maybe another critter, and they kind of run a newspaper stand. And it's kind of like this cricket saves this Italian family's newspaper stand in the New York subway station thing. What is it called? Times Square. So Times Square subway station. So they kind of all just help Tucker, who got trapped on the bus into New York City, but he is a country cricket. But he has the music of a great violin musician. So it's a lot of fun. Definitely a very easy read aloud for the younger ones to learn to sit still and listen. And I always try to start with some kind of animal story, because animal stories tend to connect with my little readers. So we have that one that, again, just picking up as I can. And then we did, I don't think I showed this in any video, but recently we finished another landmark book, which is the story of Winston Churchill, and it kind of starts from his childhood and goes all the way through. And that was on the heels of watching the Wartime Farm, which we found on YouTube. So fascinating, so interesting. All of us were just really enthralled in it. And then I have the story of Winston Churchill, and I just picked it up and started reading it out loud one day, not following our ancient history timeline at all, just kind of capitalizing on this fascination that we had with Wartime Farm. And then that led to just, honestly, just getting into World War II. So with that, we ended up picking up Uncle Eric's World War II, and this is supposed to follow on the heels of World War I, but I just picked up World War II and started reading it. This is mainly for the older ones, but the younger ones, or I should say, my 9-year-old boy is getting some from it too. And it's not everybody's favorite read, I will confess, but it's got such good information in here that I think is very important to know, especially about World War II. So we've been reading that. We've been reading how Stalin was kind of the enemy that was our ally, and we were allies with Stalin. And look what, if we were attacking Hitler for these, why weren't we going after Stalin for what he did here? So really good discussion. And then with that, I also had this book, again, Wartime Farm, and I had this book, and I was like, oh, let's read this, and we are almost finished with it, and everybody's loving it. And this is the story of, basically, her brother is off fighting war. He's part of the naval, or not, naval, the Air Force. Just not completely sure what part. But then their next door neighbor, which is kind of like their rival for tomatoes, they try to outdo each other in a tomato contest. He falls, and rather than this garden going to waste, she and her school end up trying to save the garden and basically enter this tomato contest. And through that, they kind of learn that the school bully is kind of a misunderstood boy, and what really his story is in all of this. And so it's kind of weaved around a garden, around a girl missing her brother, World War II, and all of this. And it's been a great read. And then pretty much these two and our Bible I'm doing every day. This is the other one that we're doing. This is Corrie ten Boom, World War II heroine. This is part of the Heroes of the Faith. Because it's red, because it's Corrie ten Boom, for some reason I had this in my mind that this was The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. It's not. And I started reading this, and there was a chapter in here where Corrie went to work for a family, and the dad comes in drunk. And I kind of just skimmed. I genuinely do not know what happened, but I was reading it to my daughter. I was reading it to all of my kids, and I was like, no, we're just going to move ahead. And I just did. And I know that after that, she didn't work there. I don't believe it goes into details, but I don't know how much details was in there. So be warned of that. But honestly, we have really been enjoying this. The kids were surprised at how old she was, basically at the time that the Gestapo was starting to be a part of the daily fear. And so that's been good for conversations that, the older people were affected too. It's not just these young romantic stories. Like, they were like, she's 50, how is she so old now? And so it's been good discussion points. So we're at chapter 9 of 20, so we're about halfway done. So these ones are pretty much every day with our Bible. This one is maybe 3 times a week. And then this one is once a week, and I love this book so much. This is on Ambleside's curriculum, and this is Parables from Nature. Now, this can get a little deep, and personally, this can get a little dry for my readers. Things of nature having a voice, so the wind will talk to the sea, and things like that. And personally, for my kids, that just is like, what? So I think sometimes it just goes a little bit over their heads, especially when they get into these deeper conversations. Even my 13 and 12-year-old will be like, what is going on here? But for me, there is a lot of wisdom and truth and just reflections on here that is so good. This is probably one of my favorite reads that we have done through Ambleside. I recommend it so much. But yeah, this is definitely a book that I would say is a little bit more heavier. It's why I only do it once a week, and it can get dry. Insofar as that, if you guys remember back in 2019, our homeschool of 2019-2020, the idea was to read the Bible in 90 days. And we are not even at the New Testament. We will balance back and forth between one chapter and a few chapters, but once we got to Psalms, we ended up doing 1 to 2 things of Psalms, but we moved ahead to Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Isaiah, and now we're in Jeremiah. And some of this gets us going with discussions, so I'm not going to get too deep into the chapters, like book. I'm not going to just try to keep this momentum going if we're having a good discussion. And so a lot of times we just stop and we talk, like yesterday we talked about first fruits and how God does not want our leftovers. He desires our first fruits, and how this is going to work in our Christian living and how this looks like in our life. I mean, and the difference between getting up and doing what we need to do, feed, breakfast, clothes, and everything, and leftovers. Like there was a difference. And so that was a great discussion, but it only meant that we read a short psalm and one chapter of Jeremiah. But we had a good half-hour, 45-minute discussion of it. So we're still working through this, and sometimes it leads to rabbit trails. And whatnot. So that's kind of where we are. So pretty much that happens on a daily basis. Those morning baskets, for us it starts in the afternoon. Our pretty much school sit-down day starts in the afternoon because I have babysitting in the morning. I should have babysitting today, but I don't have it, which is why I'm able to make this video for you. So because of that, these tend to happen pretty consistently in the afternoon. Oh, okay. And then my goal after that is just to make sure that people are doing math. Insofar as reading and personal reading, I don't have anything to share. I've been trying to work with the boys on grammar, because one of the things that I noticed the past year is that we really need to get back into grammar and writing and punctuation and all of that. So insofar as history, like we're just kind of focusing on that because we have not finished Story of the World Ancient, something again we started in 2019-2020, and I've gotten to the point where I genuinely just don't want to pick up Story of the World anymore. The more I do it, especially since I assign it to one of my students back in California, actually assigned it to 2 students back in California, the more I'm just learning, I don't like how short it is, how not into details it is, and how dry it is. It's just, I want something a little bit more, and it's very choppy. And I'm starting to realize that more now that I have grown as a homeschooler. So, yeah, we're working on that. All right, this video is pretty long, but I hope that this chat was enjoyable for you today, and kind of seeing where we're at and what we're doing. And just, again, a lot of it is just trying to daily survive right now. With Daddy being in school, our days aren't as flexible as you would think. We need to make sure that in the past it would be easy for me to just be like, okay, let this go, let some of the household work go, and we'll just catch up on it another day, another week. Okay, maybe not another week, but another day or the weekend. And it's one of those things that really does bother my husband. And so he'll come home after a hard day of work needing to study a lot more, and he won't until the house is tidied and in shape and whatnot. And so I don't want to put that on him. And so again, there's just a lot that we're trying to do. And then it's gardening season, which may seem like it's, you know, you're just watering plants, you're just doing this, you're just doing that. But for me, it's amazing how just another thing just takes time. Like, there's so much time. There's a lot of side businesses I'm doing, and they take time. And so just homeschooling right now is it's there. So thank you for watching. Again, I'm going to try to use today and not working with the kids that I normally work with. I'm going to try to use that to catch up on these videos or catch up on the house. Not really sure. Really need to do a good deep clean and deep purge. Because again, we're getting back to this. We have piles everywhere, and that is not what I like. That's why I've been trying to go minimal, and here we are back to piles again. So, for reals this time. I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you for watching, and if you're new to my channel and want to see more of this crazy journey, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Leave your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you in my next video. Yeah, good job. That's exactly how we would do it. Here, hold on. Mess it up. There you go. Okay. Okay. Go back. Hi. This is our page.